Thank you for joining us at the Reducing Waste Through Innovation and Partnership webinar, co-organized by Invest Hong Kong and Business Environment Council, or BEC. I'm Denise from BEC's Policy and Research team and your host today. This is the second webinar in the BEC and Invest Hong Kong Leadership Forum series. Please stay tuned for our future webinars. Now, for a few housekeeping rules, today's seminar will be recorded. So please feel free to revisit the content when the webinar is later uploaded to BEC's website and YouTube channel. Participants are all muted by default. If you have any questions or comments for our speakers, please use the Q&A or chat function at the bottom of your screen, and we will address them at the panel discussion. So without further ado, may I please invite Mr. Richard Lancaster, the chairman of BEC, to give us his opening remarks.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the second Leadership Forum series. And my great pleasure to introduce the second forum. This forum now is on the circular economy, which BEC has long recognized as a very important subject for Hong Kong. BEC has been very active this year on the subject of the circular economy. We have a dedicated advisory group that advises the board on development of the circular economy in Hong Kong. And one of the outputs from our advisory group in February this year was a report on circularity in Hong Kong. The government has also been very active this year with the publishing of its waste blueprint for Hong Kong, again published earlier this year, and with 2 rounds of public consultation, and also with the passing of the discharging legislation for municipal solid waste just last month. There's been a lot of activity which will help significantly in addressing Hong Kong's waste issues, turning waste from a problem into part of the solution. This is what the circular economy is all about. So, as the business community, we play and we can play a very key role in making the circular economy work. This will come about not just through our partnerships and our business collaboration, but also through the use of innovation, coming up with not just new technologies, but also new ideas. So this topic represents a very important issue for Hong Kong, but also a great opportunity for the business community to get involved with and to help support. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the session after this.
Thank you, Richard. May I also invite Mr. Stephen Phillips, Director of General of Investment Promotions, Invest Hong Kong, for a welcoming note.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. May I add my vote to this forum? Invest Hong Kong. Delighted to be collaborating again with BEC on probably one of the hottest topics globally, fighting climate change and carbon neutrality. Hong Kong is, of course, no exception, where we are committed to carbon neutrality by 2050. Today, we're going to be delving into waste and the seemingly ever-increasing volume of waste that modern societies create, including here in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, waste contributes about 7.4% of greenhouse emissions, coming in after electricity generation and the transport sector. As nearby jurisdictions have imposed controls on the import of waste, the most pressing question for Hong Kong has become, how do we limit the amount of waste that's going to landfill, which is no longer a viable option into the future. Inevitably, this brings both challenges and opportunities. Opportunities include new materials, and I'm sure many other ideas that we will hear about this afternoon. Challenges include overcoming the costs of production, making a new venture economically viable, achieving social acceptance, driving that behavioural change, whether amongst individuals or corporates, and of course, putting in place the right policies that encourage and nudge that behaviour along. This afternoon, we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers and experts from startups, recycling companies, government research institutes and hospitality groups. In short, a lot of brain power on this very issue. So I'm sure in the panel discussion and the following Q&A, we really are going to have a very informative and lively discussion. And we're also going to be hearing from Secretary Wong in terms of the waste management measures that the Hong Kong SAR government has recently put in place. At Invest Hong Kong, the department of the Hong Kong government that helps international and mainland companies set up here in Hong Kong, we will work around the world to bring in best of breed companies, to partner with local companies, to meet the challenges and the opportunities that we identify. So I'm sure this afternoon is going to be a fantastic opportunity to delve into depth on this topic. And I, for one, am really looking forward to the outcome of the discussions. So once again, thank you very much for joining us. And if at Invest Hong Kong we can ever help, please do get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And again, we would like to express our gratitude for Invest Hong Kong as the co-organizer of this webinar series. To kickstart the webinar, please welcome Mr. Nigel Matravers, Director of the Alba Integrated Waste Solutions Hong Kong Limited, to share with us whether the lack of innovation is holding Hong Kong waste management back. Nigel, please.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for the invitation. I'm hoping that you don't perceive my title as being too negative, but I really is a challenge for the industry and Hong Kong to be more innovative in what we do going forwards, because I started working in waste and resources in Hong Kong in 1988. I left in 2000, and during that time I worked on every waste project that there was. And when I was happy to come back to Hong Kong in 2015, disappointingly, nothing really had changed. And yet, while I've been away, I'd worked on advanced thermal treatment, mechanical biological treatment, advanced collections. And so I was slightly disappointed that the innovation hadn't really made its way to Hong Kong. Now, there certainly are exceptions. The work that the HKRITA has been doing in terms of textile recycling and its research is a very good example of what can be done. But textiles still remain a massive problem in the waste stream of Hong Kong. And I will indeed talk about my own project that brought me back to Hong Kong, which is the WE project. And I think here, the Hong Kong government was actually very innovative in the use of the legislation that has combined the whole project together, including delivering an integrated service, which includes collection as well as the processing of that. So that's really quite exciting, and I'd like to see more. And indeed, you'll see there on the slide, we even use robots for dismantling part of the items involved. But unfortunately, for many people, Hong Kong is still seen as very low tech when it comes to waste processing and collection. And this may be compared to other countries such as Singapore, where my company is also working. And here there's a lot of smart logistics, route planning, AI, on-vehicle weighing, solar panels. There's a whole range of items there that seem that we haven't really caught up with in terms of innovation in collection in Hong Kong. Because unfortunately, despite the best efforts with recycling bins and the very nice collection centres that have been created, a lot of Hong Kong's waste is still very mixed. Indeed, in the new territories, a lot of the waste is still picked up by grab lorry. So it's really difficult to see how we can separate this material at source. And one of the things that elements of innovation I think we're missing are materials recovery facilities. And in fact, I was with an old friend of mine on Saturday night who produced one of the first studies for Hong Kong in waste reduction in the 1995. And one of the recommendations was to have materials recycling facilities where we can pick out the streams and make sure we've got a product there that can be very useful. And inside these facilities, we can have robot waste pickers. These can replace a lot of the manual labor, which is not very attractive to use. And again, I was slightly disappointed this week that I took a phone call from Scotland, where a young Chinese lady from HSBC is developing robot waste pickers in Scotland. I think, well, why isn't she been developing them here? And other people then say, well, we actually don't have room. We don't have the allocation of space to allow these things to happen. But I tend to disagree. And here I think the big property owners and the major developers could show more innovation, because these sorting facilities could be built inside these massive developments that we have in Hong Kong, below the shopping centres, which would allow the separation of the waste. And in this particular example, this is in Berlin, where we have the food waste being separated and processed underground. And indeed, why not use some of the logistics centres that we have in Hong Kong? So I really think, again, some innovative thinking in terms of land and building use would also assist us to get to where we want to be. But one of the key areas, I think, that we do have is that the current procurements are too prescriptive. Too often the contracts are very specific and saying, I want one of these and it will contain this and it will use these materials. More and more, the solutions are complex, involving quite a lot of different technologies that need to be brought together. And again, something that I learned while I was working in Europe is a lot of these procurements are now done by negotiation. And then you say, this is the kind of thing I would like. Industry, what have you got? And then industry comes together to help to deliver that. So again, I really would see that innovation in procurement, as well as technology alone, is something that can really help us move forward. So I realize I've actually spoken quite quickly because I was conscious of the time. So let me just say, I do think we need to enhance innovation if we are to deliver the blueprint, which is a very valuable document for Hong Kong. It's important not in terms of waste reduction, but as we move towards the circular economy. But innovation is more than just technology. It is more than just a different way of treating food waste. We really do need innovation in quite a lot of other areas. Planning and use of land. We've got new towns being developed in the Northern New Territories, as well as Lantau tomorrow. Let us incorporate innovation for waste and resource management and the circular economy in the planning of these new towns. Design. Business Environment Council have been doing a lot of work in this area in terms of waste, reducing waste in the design process. But equally, the buildings themselves need to be designed so that they can incorporate the waste separation and reduction as well. And collection. I really do think we can do a huge amount more by using innovative techniques for collection of the material than we have at the moment. This would have impacts on reducing traffic and air quality, as well as more effective use of materials. And specifications and procurement. Specifications, including construction. Let's, rather than specify just the use of raw virgin materials, let's specify the use of secondary materials in the construction. And the procurement, again, let us be more innovative in how items are to be procured and production, so that these new ideas and new solutions from people being developed here in Hong Kong and maybe from overseas can also be incorporated to meet our overall objectives. So I understand this has been slightly controversial, but I do think we've got a great opportunity now to take innovation forward as we strive to achieve our carbon reduction strategy and our waste reduction strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Up next, we have Ms. Suki Zhang, Director of Corporate Communications, Global Commerce and Sustainability, CN Logistics International Holdings Limited, who will share with us the waste reduction and green solutions through partnership. Suki, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the time and thanks for the invitation from BEC. So, wow, CN is typically a supply chain and a logistics company starting for around like 30 years. And most of our customers were actually on two verticals. One is garment retails, especially on luxuries. And the other one is food and beverage. And with the increasing demand on the e-commerce, so we're also exploring the opportunities on the sustainability. So before the introduction, so can we just go through a little bit the CN, what are we? And then we will have 3C, which we will focusing more on the circular economy today. And we also co-create with several partners. Actually, Albert, Redress, Hong Kong Retail were our customers and our partners as well. And we also focus on the carbon neutrality and has been working with United Nations on several projects. So may we just have like 1 minute's introduction about waste. So the video actually introduced a little bit about what we did. So we were listed last year and we were doing the total solutions for our customers. But in short, like what Nigel just mentioned, the automation should not only be in the warehouse, but also for the sustainability. And we support definitely since I think 5 to 6 years ago, we help our luxury customers to do all the recycling projects and also help them to sort out with different kind of product, just like what you saw from the video, like the hangers, the plastic bags, box, and also recently with some beauty products on the bottles. And not only Hong Kong, but we also support China sustainability business. So how we deal with this and on the circular economy on handling the wastage? Wow, everyone's know like, or you have the impression that supply chain or logistics is always not green. And there were many like usable material or disposal. So since 5 to 6 years ago, we are helping with one of our largest customers to kickstart this project and help them to do the sorting. We will be helping them to do all the like the recycle on the carton box, and with partnering with Manetti and also doing the plastic hangers, and we help them to sort out with different kind of materials, and then we pass it to the partners to help them on the recycling. And currently we are also partnering with Redress. We are helping them to do the clothing, to do different kind of sorting. Some of them can be used as resell or upsell, and some of them we will be sorting and then to do the really the re-engineering and with the Novotex and several partners, and some of them they really cannot be reused or recycled, then we'll go to landfill. So, wow, what if you can do recycle and then not go to landfill? So that's the whole concept for the CN logistics. And with our green solutions, we are helping from our manufacturer side to distributor, and then we'll be helping them with all the the really fees manual work. But then we are also exploring with different partners like Albert, if we can do it more like automation than instead of all the manual work. And this is what we offer for our customer. And at the moment, we do all the collection with some supermarket as well. In fact, you may imagine there were really quite a lot of carton box with the supermarket, and we will be having a dedicated truck to do them all the recycling and all the material that we help to send back to the warehouse, and then we will help them to do the processing, and also we have to give them a regular report. And these are some of the items that are recycled for our customer, like plastic bags, most of plastic hangers, plastic bags and paper products, especially with recent e-commerce demand. We saw quite an increasing trend on that. We've got a double since last year, and we expect to have another double in coming years on the recycling products. And since last year, I think, we also kickstart the clothing products. We help, just like we mentioned, for redress, and also with the beauty products, with the plastic bottles, or also the other materials. And also we are helping them with the electronic waste as well. And this is the partnership that we work at, which we just mentioned. So Albert is definitely one of them. And these are some of the footprint. And how we react with the carbon neutrality, we have our own electric van, especially dedicated for the B2C business, and in Hong Kong and China. And also the carbon offset program right now in Mongolia, and also in India and Philippines. So Richard, and thank you.
Thank you, Suki. Next, we are very honored to have the Secretary for the Environment, Mr. K.S. Wong, to give us a keynote speech on waste reduction and resource circularity in Hong Kong. K.S., please.
Richard, Stephen, dear friends, thank you for having the forum on circular economy and waste reduction. The government launched the updated waste blueprint earlier this year. It highlights the new targets, new visions, and also reveal what we have done and what we are going to do. As mentioned by Nigel, when he returned to Hong Kong in 2015, there's no thermal technology for waste treatment, no biological treatment. But by now, at least, we are going to catch up with thermal facility, the T Park, with the biological facility, the O Park 1, and also co-digestion in the sewage treatment plant, with Y Park just opened it to treat the yard waste, and the other thermal facility handling larger volume of municipal solid waste will be completed within a few years. So we try to catch up, including the e-waste treatment V-Park handled by Nitro, opened 3 years ago. So that among various environmental challenges, waste is an aspect that Hong Kong needs to catch up. So how to catch up? Except the government formulating the overall policies, we need closer collaboration with the trade, and also to use the most appropriate technology to help. So today's topic is very timely, reducing waste through innovation and partnership. Next. But when we are talking about the challenge, we have to understand what are the key challenges locally. Well, recycling, resources circulation, circular economy is important. The local biggest waste challenge is that on average, Hong Kong people's per capita waste generation is high. So waste reduction at source is still the #1 priority for all of us to look and to act. So in the new blueprint, there are 3 key areas: to reduce waste per person, to support better resources circulation, and go towards zero landfill. In the blueprint, there are 6 major action areas: waste reduction, waste separation, resources circulation, industry support, innovation and cooperation is closely related to topic today, and education and publicity. Here I highlight 4 aspects in relation to innovation and cooperation. As mentioned by Nigel and other speakers, we need smarter recycling systems to be in place. And the opportunities would be more in view of the Municipal Solid Waste Charging Bill just passed by the legislature last month. We do encourage the state-of-the-art technologies. So that's why since late last year, we introduced the Green Tech Fund to support the industry to look into the relevant R&D that can help Hong Kong and also even the Greater Bay Area to reduce waste and to reduce carbon footprints. But we have to look at, different from what Nigel to describe, Hong Kong's particular mixed waste. The unique problem is about the large amount of organic waste mixed with other recyclables. Without solving that first, the other technologies may not be readily applicable to Hong Kong. So we have to look at, while some other technologies may have been in place in other economies, that may not be implemented soon in Hong Kong due to different local situations. So organic waste recycling, that's important, and the government is going to do more in collaboration with trade. And the GBA, Greater Bay Area, offers further cooperations and opportunities. Next. And as mentioned that there are other 5 action areas, and each areas, in fact, need innovation and collaboration with trade. Let me highlight 3 examples under each heading. For waste reduction, as said, MSW charging offers us good opportunity. But not only about the quantity, but also about particular waste like plastic. We understand that Hong Kong is surrounded by the oceans. So plastic waste and oceans is an increasingly concerned challenge. So the government this year is going to have a number of initiatives, including consultations and engagements to deal with different types of plastics, including the plastic waste container and other single-use plastics. Recycling, we have the Green Ed Community Recycling Network, just rebranded and expanded in Hong Kong. It's getting more popular in time. We are also changing our policies. In the past, we let the market to do the mainstream recycling. But given the change in the recycling market, both locally, regionally, and globally, the new policy is that if the trade is not interested in that recycling activity by itself, the government will take over and provide investment. There are 2 examples as shown on the slide, that we are going to scale up the central collection of food waste from commercial and industrial sector to households. And also we have the central collection of plastics, currently cover 3 districts, and will be expanded to cover 9 districts and ultimately the entire Hong Kong. Resources circulation. We also need more end-of-the-pipe treatment facilities to do the waste to energy and waste to resources. Here again, a few examples. We are having the tender on a paper popping facility in Eco Park. Okay, we are having some waste to energy facilities, and we are going to have more. And we have the Y Park Yacht Waste Recycling just opened next to T Park. Industry support. We set up the recycling fund to support the industry on various aspects. Not only money, land is a challenge in Hong Kong. So we are going to expand Hong Kong's eco park, but that may take some more time. And we are going to review our procurement policy to support more recycling. Last but not least, education and publicity. The MSW charging is a very good education and publicity. And we are going to have a team involving green outreach people to help the grassroots and those in need in the community to cope with the forthcoming MSW charging. Trade collaboration, as mentioned, is important. To end, I would like to highlight that we do, in collaboration with other bureaus and departments, to support Hong Kong's migration to reduce waste towards zero landfill. On planning level, there are different new towns. We have been talking with the development bureau's colleagues to integrate various state-of-the-art waste treatment facilities in the planning. And also we're going to talk with the trade and also the buildings department on how to integrate the recycling facilities in new buildings so that they can welcome the waste charging scheme and to provide better recycling space in new premises. And also, we are going to reconsider what should be the collection systems in Hong Kong on waste and also on recycling, because the MSW charging is coming. To end, thank you for BEC to organize today's forum. It's timely. Please refer to our waste blueprint for more details. To reduce waste, lead innovation and partnership. And it's not only to reduce waste in Hong Kong. As mentioned by Stephen, waste management involves about 78% of the greenhouse gas emissions in Hong Kong. So in order to meet our carbon neutrality pledge in Hong Kong, to achieve it before 2050, we need to clean up our energy supply and reduce demand, clean up our transportation, and reduce waste. Thank you, BEC.
Thank you, KS, for the overview of the waste blueprint for Hong Kong 2035 and the proposed government initiatives. Now, let's move on to the panel discussion that will be focused on the alternatives to disposable plastic products. Again, if you have any questions for the speakers, please feel free to type your questions using the Q&A function. May I please introduce our moderator for today, Mr. Andy Wong, Head of Innovation and Technology at Invest Hong Kong. I will pass now the time to you, Andy.
Thank you. So good afternoon to everyone. I'm Andy Wong from Invest Hong Kong. Today, for the panel discussion, it's more about what are the alternatives to plastic. So I have a very good mix of panelists today here. So starting with my first right-hand side is a developer, system invisible bag. So maybe later on I'll ask you about what is the company vision, etc. And then the next lady is Carmen, she's from Lenham Hospitality Group. She look after the over 20-something hotels in Hong Kong and also in China, as well as in the US. And also the next gentleman is Peter, he's from NAMI. So I may be asking about question about all the definition about biodegradable, microplastic, etc. And then the far on the corner is the Ireland, the one after the recycling company. So maybe I will have two type of questions. The first question is about the company vision and also the business model of the company. And then the second part is about what are the operational issues that we are facing, in particular for educating the people to use the alternative to plastic. So that will be the two major part. So maybe I will ask each panelist to give about 2-3 minutes about the question that I'm going to ask. So maybe I start with Peter. So can you help understand what LAMI does, first of all, what is LAMI? And also what are the alternative material to plastic from your research development? And then try to explain what it means by biodegradable, what it means by microplastic that we hear of. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks a lot, Andy. This is the 15th anniversary of NAMI, and I've been with NAMI for 12 years now. We are a applied R&D center set up by the Hong Kong government, and we are focused on materials development. We are very different from a university. We do not do fundamental research. Rather, we do applied research that must have a commercialization path. and materials development is our expertise. And one of the couple of the focuses that we have in these few years are recycling technologies as well as biodegradable materials developments. So biodegradable development is actually not new. There have been biodegradable materials for over 10 years. Like the most common one is the PLA, which has been around for more than 10 years now. But however, its use has been very limited before the global plastic ban started to come in. When the plastic ban started to be implemented, then its uses and also its pricing exploded. Now, in the market currently, there are actually quite a few more alternative materials now, including the cellular-based, paper-based alternatives, as well as water-soluble materials like Wong's product, as well as some very innovative additives that I'm going to talk a little bit more about, which can actually accelerate the application of common plastic like PP and TP by a lot. And I think there are actually rules for a lot of these different materials because different applications require different requirements. So right now I'm going to spend a minute or so to introduce a couple of new materials that we have developed recently. Both of them included a very significant recycling element. So I have prepared, for example, the first material is PLA composite material, where you actually add very low cost recycled materials, waste material basically, to the PLA. The idea is lower the cost because right now the PLA cost is extremely high. So the more recycled materials you add to it, the more you lower the cost. And however, there's always going to be compromise. The more you add of the waste material, the mechanical properties will go down. You can actually add a lot of different waste materials. For example, this tray is using the wood waste, and then the back one here, the spoon, the coffee grind. And you can also use a different type of food waste. This one is a soybean waste, and then this one is a tea leaf essentially. So you can add all kinds of waste to it. But right now in the market, you see limitation about 20% because once you add more than 20% of these waste, you will lose mechanical properties significantly. So now we have developed new materials as well as mixing technology that can enhance the homogeneous mixing of the waste and the PLA so that you can incorporate as many as 50% of the recycled materials to the PLA composite to specifically lower the cost. And the second type of materials that we have developed, this one is, I think it's very different. This one is using a newly developed, we developed this additive that can add to common plastic like PP and PE to significantly accelerate the biodegradation. And for example, this LPE bag actually only needs about 5% of this additive. And so that the cost is not significantly higher, only 10 to 20%. And no significant change in the properties. And then the biodegradation here, we have just obtained the green mark. So it's actually degraded 25% in 180 days. So it projected to be less than 5 years for biodegradation, compared to common stock plastic, which is over 100 years. So this is a product is already in the market. And then there's also, actually not in Hong Kong, but in mainland China, it's developed together with our partner, a Hong Kong company with a factory in China. And then there's also include the food tray, as well as the cutlery with the PP. So one very important characteristic is that, very extremely important actually, is that this material can directly go back to the recycling stream. This is extremely important because most of the other biodegradable materials actually cannot be mixed back with the recycling stream. With the common plastic, it will poison the recycling stream. And but this particular material with the low concentration of the additive can go back directly with the other common plastic. Extremely important because after all the plastic items that you use, be it biodegradable or common plastic, and you want them in priority to be recycled. And if unfortunately some of them end up in the landfill, you also want it to be degradable. So this material can do both. Andy, you also asked about the relationship with biodegradable materials and microplastics.
Yes.
Actually, they are not directly related because actually most of the most of the microplastics do not come from plastic components, and actually do not come from biodegradable materials mostly. Mostly, microplastic come from polyester and the nylon clothing that we are wearing get washed out by the laundry process. It got somehow related to biodegradable material because of one particular type of degradable material, which is oxo-degradable. The oxo-degradable actually, literally, is not a biodegradable material. It's basically composed of a bunch of fragmentized common plastic bound together by bioadditive. The bioadditive will biodegrade, but while it biodegrades, it release all these microplastic fragments that will stay in the environment for a long, long time. So truly biodegradable materials are homogeneous and they will degrade uniformly and do not generate microplastics.
Thank you, Peter. So it's good to hear that there's a material available to be alternative to plastic. And also the clarification about not all biodegradable doesn't mean the biodegradable still have the microplastic. Is not the case.
Sure.
Right. Thank you. And then I move on to the environment, which is I know you are an environmentalist, and then you run and founded a company called Invisible and carrying the carrier bag. So can you let us know more about your company vision? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Simon. So thank you, Andy. Actually, we are Invisible company. What we are doing is biodegradable and water soluble packaging. We aim to provide alternative, a choice for brands and corporates to replace those unaffordable packaging. Most of our clients, I would say 80% are actually fashion industry. I think one of the speakers also mentioned fashion industry is one of the biggest polluting industry ever. Those poly bags that during the transportation from the manufacturing side, these kind of packaging, you can't avoid it. So we hope to bring out a choice to those brands to replace it. So our mission is also how to create a community and also an education and publicity for people to know that, hey, right now we have a choice to replace those packaging and to reduce the negative impact to the environment, because as long as we are still alive, you cannot go for like no plastic, no packaging, but how to reduce the waste that we could do in our daily life and also come from a business or like a level or corporate level.
Thank you. Maybe comment. I know you run the sustainability role in the in-house, so maybe you can tell me more about the role that you are doing and also the journey that about the sustainability in your roles.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, BEC, for inviting me. That's all for inviting me. So, have been working for Lighthouse Hospitality for over 10 years now. Ranging from carbon, water, waste, everything on sustainability that I will be touched on. So, but waste is actually one of my favorite topic because somehow in the hospitality sector, our industry is relatively wasteful. We do have a lot of single-use disposable items due to hygiene issue, the convenience of our customers, and the way that we travel in the past 20, 30 years. So I think plastic has been one of the key topics that actually bring all the hotels, all the hotel group around the world together. So we, as an international company, we grew from 12 hotels to 25 hotels globally in the last 10 years. We started our phasing out our single-use plastic journey in 2018. It wasn't an easy journey. So we first actually identified 10 items. I think 11 items actually, so to phase out in all our hotels around the world. And of course, we face challenges. We need to either we don't use that item. So for example, sometimes we realize that we don't really need to use cocktail sticks on all our drinks. So that's one example. And then we also identify, okay, we still need to use straw in certain situations. So we need to find an alternative. So back in 3 years ago, so the item that we can identify is a PLA or / made straws. So we need to use actually not one rules or one standards to phase out all our single-use plastic. We need first, of course, we follow the rules that we start from not using it, maybe disposable items, and then we need to identify any reusable options in our hotels. And then, okay, if these two options are not valid for these items, then we need to find an alternatives. But in the past 3 years, it's been an education, and we are still learning. As I think, as the speakers were mentioned, you know, the definition of biodegradable, compostable, and it's a bit challenging for us, you know, and trying to translate this knowledge to our frontline staff, especially for those who are doing the purchasing decision, that can clearly identify with just a very simple guidelines telling them that, okay, what you can use, what I cannot use. So we're still learning, so I think I hope that today I can learn something from our speakers as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I can imagine you spend a lot of effort trying to work with the frontline people, trying to make them aware of this importance, and also try to make a solution. So move on to the end. So you're running a very challenging business, which is called recycling. Not easy. So can you compare, tell me about your vision, first of all, and also compare how Hong Kong run the recycling business compared to maybe to other market?
Thanks for inviting. And my name is Alan. I run a small business in Hong Kong, and our vision is for the better future. Actually, I copy from my clients in Australia, who is BEC Recycling, is one of the top 10 global recycling company. And then once I learned what they're doing in Australia, and then I was inspired. So that's why our mission. And the mission is try to reduce much waste going to landfill in Hong Kong as much as possible. As in the very beginning, our company just do waste paper recycling. But at the end, when I develop more in Hong Kong, and I find plastic waste is extremely serious in Hong Kong. For a study in America from a professor, since 1950, when plastic was invented, around 8 billion metric tons produced, and only 9% of them are recycled. And in global, 9%, I mean. And then for the whole world, like 30% or less incinerated, the rest is going to landfill or going to our sea. So the main problem is it makes me to, if the slogan is for the better future, then we have to focus on plastic recycling. And also I have a Japanese friend told me that there's a funny story when we watched TV in Japan, and one of the news, or not news, it's a funny program saying why Hong Kong don't do source separation for waste in Hong Kong, because I think most of us who sit in Japan, and they do extremely serious separation in front. So the TV spoke there to Japanese, because Hong Kong government wants to sponsor the elderly, to secure them have a job, so that before landfilling, they will have the people separate waste. But this really inspired me to go further on this, and also hope we can do more policy in Hong Kong. And since today is innovation and partnership for reducing waste, for me, for the innovation, it's not only for technology, it's in the policy and innovation of people's mind. we have the liberal mindset to accept the MSW charge, because all the country or region we're talking about, they all have MSW charge, and then they all have the initiative to do the source separations. And this is their obligations, civil obligation again. So I think this is the first part, and partnership is, I'm seeing there will be a lot of challenge when the MSW charge go into place, because our citizens do not get used to it, and also our corporate. So I think the partnership is we have to build a synergy to explain to people that we need to do this.
Thank you. So maybe I move on to the next area. It's more about the go-to-market and also the operation. Maybe I start with the environment. So you spend a lot of effort trying to promote your batch, right? So tell me more about the go-to-market strategy that you're using. How can you educate or tell the people to do your brand is not visible? Tell me more about it. Thank you.
Actually, our company is a startup company we started last year. Until today, what we are doing is aligned with our mission is how to create a community to bring a positive environmental change. Actually, this is also part of the education, how to change corporate mindset, behavior of the consumers. So our go-to-market strategy until today is how to leverage our product more than just a packaging, but behind that is a message and also a behavioral change. Is we do lots of social media messages, talk to people, talk to corporate, how to promote them. When a company use our products, we don't call them clients, we call them essential factors, because they are willing to make a change, especially like corporate in land hospitality. It's very hard to initiate that step to change every product or usage to not plastic or like biodegradable products. So we talk to those our distinct vectors. We say that okay, today you're not only using our products, but on top of that, how are we going to leverage communication on all the platforms and the social media, because the power is so strong. So we also, apart from the products, we also how to create a community with people doing high cleanup, beach cleanup, to see the facts that people neglect right now of how to just consume a product and afterwards people don't care, trash it in the landfill. But actually, there's a lot of ways that we need to focus on the afterlife, the packaging afterlife. And so the power of the social media is there, is strong. So we talk to people a lot on different channels and emphasize again on the education.
Definitely, I can see you always on the link key. Yeah. So Peter, so you are from the research institution, right? So you keep on developing the new technologies, right? So to make the alternative to plastic. For the Nami, tell me more about your business model. How can you work with your partner, and also what are the steps or barriers when you have new technology to roll out to the market? Maybe from the cost perspective. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. As I mentioned before, we are an applied R&D center. Each year we have to go to a legislative council to report our achievement. They don't care about how many projects we do, how much funding we use. They only ask us how many products in the marketplace come from your institute. So even though we are technology, materials experts, but we are measured by commercialization. So we do not stop at technology and materials alone. Even though we actually do not do manufacturing, we work hand in hand with our industrial partner to develop the manufacturing technology and actually go to their factories and help them scale up the process in their factories. And sometimes even though you develop the materials, technology, you set up manufacturing, commercialization still has a lot of hurdles. Often, the products that we develop involve quite innovative materials. So it would take our industrial partner quite a bit of conviction and sometimes courage to actually be the first mover. And actually, their customers, probably a lot of them are reluctant to even innovate, to try the new products. So there's some additional things that we have to do. For example, leveraging our network, especially with the different government departments, to set up, for example, trial sites. Where our industrial partners can showcase and get reference on their products in a very focused trial site. And And a lot of times this group would be a very critical commercialization step.
Okay, thank you. So maybe comment. So you've been developing a pioneer, rolling out the alternative plastic or using some recycling in your hotel project. So can you share with me what is the change management in your organization to enable the frontline staff and also your customers to adopt this new materials?
I want to highlight one thing that I have always been a one-person department in this company. The true reason that I think is a benefit to me is because then all other departments, so sustainability overall will be integrated into each different department. So then it's a responsibility for each department head, all the decision makers. So engagement is very important actually in my role. And so that's why since 2018, when we first started out phasing our single-use plastic, we did a survey first. So we have identified 11 items that we think that is most commonly found in our hotels. And then we did a survey around the world. So to seek the feedback and then identify any challenges in different parts of the world. Then we roll out the program by phase. And during the survey, it's interesting findings is in addition to that 11 items, some hotels, some staff actually identify another 10 items and ask me if we should phase out as well. So, actually, I'm really happy that our staff awareness was very high because the raise of different questions about identifying different single-use plastic being used in the hotels. So actually this year we're doing the similar exercise again because we have almost complete phasing out those 11 items. We have identified solutions. So we do another exercise just this summer is we have identified over 70 items that is being disposable that are used in our hotel, including, for example, imagine, I think all of you have been to a hotel leaders vacation in a hotel. So for example, in a breakfast, you will see some of the hotel will use the butter that is single package that with plastic and aluminum foil on top. So that is single use. So that is disposable. So how to replace that? So we have identified all these items out. Of course, we might not be able to find a solution right away to phase out all the 70 items. But as a starting point, actually also an education process for our colleagues. They start aware that disposable is no longer a nice options in hospitality sector. We should look for better options like reusable or other alternatives to replace those items. But it's still a journey for us. But we also actually happy to also to see actually globally a lot of legislation also coming into force in the next few years. Also, no matter, I hope with the regulations, with us players, the users are getting ready. We need solutions to close the gap, so that we can comply with the coming regulation requirement as well.
Thank you. So we use recycle.
Reuse, and then recycle. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So your recycling business, right? So in Hong Kong, you are facing some difficulties. Maybe you can share a little bit more about the difficulties, right? And also from the government, I think you'll be working. Government has done something in your area, so maybe you can share a little bit more about what have done from the government perspective. Particularly, our secretary is in here. Maybe we can hear more about the current situation and also looking forward, what can be done better.
Thanks for asking. We run a factory in Hong Kong. We have a automatic sorting facility without just only relying on labels. We have optical sorting. So we can process like 20 metric tons per day of plastic mixed waste, not sorted waste. But actually, we cannot get enough. We have only maybe several tons, 10% of our capacity. The main reason is the plastic waste rather go to landfill instead of going to our recycling system. The main problem is there are a lot of costs for the corporates because they have no incentive. If I ask them, if I come collect, how many tons do you have? Oh, no, we're not talking about tons, we're talking about kg, that's what they say. And one rubbish bag, can you come pick up even for free? I'm sorry, even if you call Google in, it will cost you $100 come to pick up. And this plastic bag maybe cost $1 or $2. So this is the main problem that in collection side, it will kill the business already. So I know the government also know that. So I'm happy that they have a lot of green stations sponsored by the government, and then they will work with our recyclers to solve this problem. And I hope we can do a lot better when the MSW charge comes. But it all comes along with the corporate and waste generator itself. And there's two suggestions maybe I can bring in is one is the packaging waste responsible scheme. It is already enforcing in UK. This is like the producer responsibility scheme for packaging like supermarket for those who revenue over 20 million Hong Kong dollars and who's generate more than 50 metric tons packaging waste per year. They need to buy a coupon for recycling from the open market, and this is just like a stock market to ensure they can minimize the environmental impact because they generate the plastic waste. The second one is just like Europe, they are enforcing this year for all plastic products for the manufacturer. They need to have certain percentage of recycled plastic, like 10 or 20%. Because the recycled plastic quality is not higher, it's worse than the virgin plastic. And also the cost even higher than recycled plastic, than the virgin plastic too. So nobody will buy recycled plastic. So this law is to enforce the corporates need to buy back the recycled plastic and make the recycled plastic in Europe today. Recycled plastic is even higher price than the virgin plastic. And this will move up the recycled market. So I think this is one of two ways that maybe we can look into it to bring up the circular economy and also to have a recycling business.
Thank you. So yeah, it's good that for the producer, which is the user producing the plastic bag, to pay for this, and also for the manufacturer who has the responsibility to look after this waste management. So two parties, very covering.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe the last thing is about what is your final thought, right? If we want to drive the alternative to plastic, so what do you think will be very crucial from the area that you work in? Maybe I start with
Thank you. It's very crucial for every stakeholder to take part of it, especially for us considered as a supplier providing alternative materials for biodegradable and also go to corporates. It's very important for all the stakeholders, for example, government initiative, how to, for example, our clients mostly are second-hand and e-commerce, how to limit the usage of those traditional poly layers and packaging, how to reduce it, how to recycle it, or what other alternatives in the market that could promote to the corporates that they could use it. Second of all is corporates for sure. Is even though we are products, but if the corporate doesn't have the initiative or they don't have the drive to achieve the sustainability, even we have a good product or we work with NAMI to promote or design and develop a new plastic-free materials, if no corporate are taking the step to move forward, even a good product will become a useless. And the third one is the consumers. If the government and the corporates take the initiative, but the end user, they don't care about the packaging life, at the end, this circle will not run correctly. So I would say that if we want to change or provide alternative or make a drive to those alternative materials, it has to be every parties to take the step. And at the end, these will become a circular economy and achieve sustainability and sustainability.
Thank you.
I think after the last year, 2020, the COVID, change is the new normal. I think everyone that will realize that actually something can happen and we can work in all different ways. So, so don't be afraid to change and try out new things. I think from corporate point of view, you might start with small, like in a small scale, and then to understand what are the key challenges to roll out in the bigger picture. But and I think it's obvious that I think your team that will realize when you roll this out, like or trial this thing, you might not you might actually be surprised by the team that they might welcome these changes. So I do really highly encourage the corporate that don't hesitate. I think it's the best time actually to start changing some of your past business practices.
Thank you, Hannah. Anything from you?
Yes. We're talking about alternative materials today in this panel, but I think we all agree, as Carmen mentioned, that 3 hours should be the priority. But nevertheless, in Hong Kong, which is a very highly dense city, probably in the short term, it's very difficult to achieve 100% recycling. So there going to be continuous flow of, unfortunately, single-use disposable items, landfills, or alternative materials. Have some usage right now. But I think as I mentioned before, the rollout is the hardest part. And so I think if we can identify some focused trial site to try new materials, that really help. So, for example, shopping mall, or maybe even where I work in the science park, we can set up, for example, a focused trial site in a closed community. You can try new materials and closely monitor the customer feedback on the performance of the utensil, the value and cost, how the customer really feel about the value to them, the cost to them, performance, and also you can also closely monitor the overall waste management logistics in the closed community, and that would be probably a good way to start to push one particular type of materials for an alternate use or plastic waste.
Sorry, one question.
So when you are trying questions, what do you think will be the priority that in order to draw the alternative plastic? What do you think is crucial part that have to be in place?
Yes, I think the 3 elements reduce, recycling. Don't think recycling works out. Oh, you see the recycle rate 9% global. Oh, reduce. Except, for example, even for the government facility for food waste, they do free recycling for you guys. Or for the corporate, the capacity is not full yet because we don't have incentive for to do this. So look at the figures, look at the actual figures, and think what you can do. I know this single-use alternative is less harm to the environment by using another way, but when you use single-use, this is like the heated tobacco or e-cigarette compared to the traditional cigarette. So as far as I think, just look at the figure and think scientifically, and then change your behavior.
Thank you. So from the floor, there's a question to maybe to Carmen. So hotel use a lot of disposable plastics, such as the small plastic bottle for soup, hair conditioner, bottle drinks, etc. How will the group address those disposable plastic waste?
Thank you for this question. So we've been investigating, working very closely with our suppliers since two years ago almost, to identify the right alternatives. That's the key word, right alternatives. It's very challenging, but I think right now that I think this year that we actually have approved to identify using dispenser instead of the single tube, so that to reduce the amount of disposable plastic for the shampoo and shower gel, and even in Hong Kong for the water bottles, the plastic water bottles in our guest room, we will replace with our in-house glass bottle system. So we will we wash and refill our own bottle of water for our guest room. So so that's the reuse part that we share. So I understand that it's just a starting journey for us that we use different tactics for different items in our hotels.
Thank you. So I think I'm close to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you so much for all the attention. So thank you.
Thank you, panelists, and Andy for moderating the discussion. This also concludes the webinar. An event feedback questionnaire will be sent to you after this webinar. Please take a few moments to fill in the form. If you are interested to know more about future BEC events, please follow our social media channels. Thank you again for joining us today and have a nice day.